So, very good afternoon, everybody. This is the first day of our second season of semester two's presentations, and this season will run from 11th to 15th of March. Today, you all are making presentations on literature, European literature, or let us call it English literature, published between 1900 and 1950. This is the evening slot. And in this session we will have presentations by these students. Let me share a screen and your topic also. So we will have first by Insia on biography of Virginia Woolf, followed by Mansi on symbols of the great Gatsby. Nirali, you can say symbolic study of the great Gatsby, or symbols in the great Gatsby. Nirali will read on comparison between the great Gatsby novel and movie. So again, this title is not properly drafted. You need to work on that. A comparative study of the novel and the film adaptation. Payal will read on modernism in the Great Gatsby. Pooja on Yeats's apostrophe S. Then you'll have to add S also, because it is a proper name. Yeats's religious quest and politics. Rajeshvariba on the voice of W.B. Yeats's poems. Here it is properly put apostrophe S. Riddhi on the theme of the Westland. If it is only one theme, you can say the central theme of the Westland. If you're talking about more themes, then themes, plural, you have to use. I hope subsequently we don't have to suggest to you about how to craft a proper title. Rinkal will read on Buchanan, Gatsby, and Fitzgerald, Wealth and the American Dream. Okay. Trushali on repetition of past, F. Scott Fitzgerald and the Great Gatsby, and finally Upasana's presentation on a feminist approach to the Great Gatsby. Capital G should be there in great also. It's the title. Okay. Okay, so by and large, good. You have put your title in single inverted comma. That also is good. That suggestion I don't have to give and follow the same pattern of writing in all. Okay, so let us start with the first presentation. Insia, you can share your screen and you can start. Yeah, it is already shared. No, it is already shared. Now you can open your PPT. Yeah.
Reading and writing. From 1897 to 1901, she attended the Ladies' Department of King's College, London. Her father, Leslie Stephen, was a famous scholar, editor, and philosopher. She was a pioneer of stream of consciousness as a narrative device. She also known as a great writer who used this technique in very brilliant way. Bloomsbury Group and her marriage life. After the death of her parents, she and her sister moved to Bloomsbury and became the member of Group, a group of intellectuals and creatives that became Woolf's close friends and business partner. Here she also met with writers like E.M. Foster's and she met Leonard Sidney Woolf, and they both married in 1912, and in 1997 couple founded Hogarth Press. Virginia Woolf published most of her work in this press. She had an emotional and sexual affair with Sackville West for approximately 10 years. Her famous works. The Voyage Out is her first published work, which is published in 1915, and these are other famous works written by her. And most of her works are based on theme of feminism. Writing style of Woolf. Uh, Virginia Woolf was journalist as well as writer and recognized as one of the best novelists and short story writers of the 20th century. She was best known for fractured narratives and writing in stream of consciousness. It's also known as interior monologue, in which we are able to understand thoughts of character through the action of character, and that's why her books are called psychological novels also. Feminism. Feminism is the belief that women should be allowed the same rights, power, and opportunities as men and be treated in the same way or the set of activities intended to achieve this state. Women's question in the 19th century was concerned largely with issues of the vote and education. Virginia Woolf became the leading spokeswoman for the dominant issue of the 20th century. A room of one's own. It's considered the first major work in feminist criticism. It's an extended essay by Virginia Woolf, which published on 24 October 1929. The essay based on series of lectures at Newnham College and ODTAA Society at Girton College of Cambridge University in 1928. ODTA it's a literary group of Cambridge University, Girton College. Woolf builds the argument that literature and history is a male construct that has traditionally marginalized women. She also says that all books are mostly written by male, and some books are written on female. It's also written by male. It's her famous quote. A woman must have money and room of her own if she is to write fiction. Woolf suggests that impressive and influence piece need financial and special freedom. She suggests that women need financial freedom and her own personal space. She argues that women are not treated equal to men in society. She gives the example of Judith, a fictional sister of Shakespeare who always underestimated and treated as second sex. Through the character of Judith, she also says about her own experience. When she is a child, her brother are allowed to get education in school, but she is not allowed. And Judith Shakespeare and William Shakespeare both are equal in talent, but William Shakespeare got fame and status as professional writer, but his sister allowed to forces to do only household chores. She states that Jane Austen, George Eliot, and the Bronte sisters have produced some good works of literature. This group of female writers are the model of women writer of now time, and she says that if these women had found their personal space, then they are write more great work. Death of Virginia Woolf. Virginia Woolf left 9 novels, 4,000 letters, 400 essays, and 30 volumes of her diary. She ended her own life by committing a suicide, and reason is depression. She suffered all throughout her life. On March 28, 1941, She loaded her pocket full of stones and thrown herself in the river of Ouse. Her life is full of depression, and she is also sexually abused by her stepbrothers. And it's time of World War, and she married with a Jew man. So she faced a lot of problems in her life, and at the end, she committed suicide. Here are my work citation. Then, if you have a question, ask me.
Insia, have you found any kind of reflection of Virginia Woolf herself in any of her works?
Uh, a room of one's own. She gives an example of Judith, presents a Judith Shakespeare, and through this character, she expresses her own experience of life, and most of her works are also. Most of her works are also portrayed her own experience, like Orlando she writes, and in this she talks about Vita Sequile and her own personal life also.
Insia, what people think about feminism in our society?
There are two group of people. Some believes that who don't understand the real meaning of feminism. They believes that this is anti-women, anti-man movement, and it's not good for our tradition. But the real meaning of feminism is about women's equal right. Society should treat men and women equally. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Mansi Gujadiya. Today I will present symbols of the Great Gatsby. Here is my personal information. In this presentation, I will discuss about the introduction of novel The Great Gatsby, symbols East and West, the green light, the Valley of Ashes, the eyes of Dr. T.J. Ickelberg, conclusion and work citation. In a first introduction of the novel, F. Scott Fitzgerald's greatest work, The Great Gatsby, is not only a great story, but an insight into the flow of real life during the roaring 520s. This novel has been considered by many a symbol for jazz as a time of extraordinary wealth and promise. A novel presenting the truth behind the 20s and creating an atmosphere which has earned a permanent place in American literature. Uh, Here is a four symbol. First symbol is east and west. East, Bachchans live here. The east with some illusion to Europe in ambition, sin, drunkenness, meretricious beauty. West, Nick and Gatsby live. West and Midwest present represent goodness, solidarity, security, and a family. In the end of the novel, Nick says, "I see now that these have been a story of the West. After all, Tom and Gatsby, Daisy and Jordan, and I were all Westerners, and perhaps we processed some difficulty in a common which made us subdue undepicted in a Western earnest life. Second is the green light. The Great Gatsby present a colorful novel in painting world. Green color traditionally associated with good image, such as spring, hope, and youth, is a significant color in Gatsby word. Nevertheless, green has a symbolic meaning of despair and instead hope. It is not a surprise that colors in this novel empty a lot of reflection, different lights from different angles. Green shows many thoughts, idea, attitudes, and choices that Gatsby had throughout the story. The Valley of Ashes. The ashes are made by industry that helps other to be rich. Thus, it shows the impossibility of the American dream. The Valley of Ashes, this ceremony dumping ground, is an industrial hellscape, a dirty, dismal land of lost dreams and forgotten people. Even vigilant Dr. T.J. Ickelberg bears witness of the valley's objection to those sacrificed to early 20th century American material culture and to Tom's extramarital affair. The eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg. The eyes represent omnistic good God, someone who can see everything and know everything. The eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg are blue and gigantic. Their ratings are 1 yard high. His eyes dimmed a little by many painless days after sun and rain brood on our Solomon dumping ground. The faded eyes of Dr. T.J. Ickelberg looming over the impervious valley of ashes, divining West East from New York City. The end of the novel, following the car crash that leaves Tom's mistress dead. Here, a windowed husband looks to the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg and prays, as, as though the God for strength, salvation, guidance, and resolution. Intoning God knows what you have been doing. Everything you have been doing. God sees everything. And end of the presentation, I will conclude that The Great Gatsby is one of the best novels in the 20th century. Symbols in the novel play an important role in giving the readers an idea about the 1920s and make the reader understand how concrete things stand for abstract idea. The novel succeed to combine imagination and vitality in an analysis of the American culture via using important symbols. This is my work citation, and thank you. Now you can ask a question.
Mansi, how green light represent in our society?
Uh, Basically, green color associate with nature, for nature, like a tree, forest, and grass. So we can say that green light is related to uh, hope and money.
Mansi, how does the Valley of Ashes symbolize the moral decay of that time society?
Okay. The value of ashes related to industrial idea, and that's why we can say that. Okay, thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dabhi Nirali, and today I am going to present here comparison between the Great Gatsby movie novel and movie adaptation. This is my personal introduction. This is the table of content. First of all, I would like to discuss here the information of author. Full name of him, Francis Scott Key Fitzgerald. Famous for He is a famous for American short story writer and novelist. Famous for his depictions of the jazzes. Uh, the Gatsby, the this was the third novel of him. The novel is one of his notable work. The Great Gatsby is connected with his private life, because his wife Zelda in the both American and France become almost as celebrated as his novel. This is the introduction of Great Gatsby novel. The creation of Nick Carraway as narrator is only one aspect of the technical problem of presenting the story. The party at Gatsby's house followed chapter 1, but in the Gallus, Fitzgerald shifted the whole of what was the chapter 3 to chapter 2. The chapter 4 is vital for wheeling out the image, if not the actuality of Gatsby. This chapter is also rewritten to sharpen the characterization of Gatsby. In the chapter 5, the meeting between Gatsby and Daisy in chapter 6 and 7. Both are the carrying out the plot and exposing of Gatsby to the cold hard malice of Tom. The detailed plot of chapter 8, Gatsby's murder and Wilson's suicide. In the last chapter, 9 begin with the police and paparazzi storming Gatsby's house. The details of movie and novel. This is the picture of chart, character chart. The movie published in 1925 and the movie published in 1930. Author and director. The author of the novel is F. Scott Fitzgerald, and the director of the movie Baz Luhrmann. This is the character name and also the name of the actors who played the role in the movie. This is the main difference in the movie and main information of the movie and novel. The book and movies is the perspective of the author and director. The Great Gatsby book was written by F. Scott Fitzgerald in the 1920. It was published by Charles Scribner's Sons. It is romantic fiction. Scott plotted a love story in the framework of American society. The book clarifies the gap between real and surreal thoughts through relationship, money, and profile. In the other side, the Great Gatsby movie, was crafted by Baz Luhrmann and Crane Pierce. The movie is inspired by the book The Great Gatsby. Uh, the storyline remains constant. Constant, few variation are noticed. He used extreme emotions to defy them, incorporated special effects and surreal environment. The character analysis. No adaptation can do justice to the characters of classic masterpiece, The Great Gatsby, but Luhrmann's direction of 2030 was show understanding of novel alluding to the F. Scott book. The characters, Jordan Baker. We learn Jordan Baker is an athlete nearly immediately in the book. The two only ever seems to have a casual affection for each other, especially as Jordan is shown as be dishonest, but in the film she is a blank canvas. We never get to know all that much about her. In the novel, she is a unromantic. She is in a romantic relationship with Nick until late summer. But in the movie, she portrayed as a mere character. Nick Carraway. He is a non-alcoholic and got drunk in twice in the novel, but in the movie he is shown as an alcoholic. The other characters, Tom Buchanan, his character has few negative sides in the novel, but in the movie he is portrayed as an absolute villain. Daisy, she also lacks a certain spark and an underlying passion, a pettiness that propels her character forward in the book, but in the in the novel, in the movie, she is a weak and distressed personality. This doesn't suit suit at her in her character. In the book, she is a careless, but in the movie, she is a more often thoughtless. Thoughtless. These are the some scenes from the movie and novel, which are also different from each other. Lunch with Wolfsham. When Nick lunch with Gatsby and Mr. Wolfsham, Luckerham takes them through a secret door in the barber shop and into a speakeasy full of dancing women and at least slightly corrupt men. The other scene, the apartment party, another major difference that can quickly be noticed is in the party scene. It was written to occurred during the 1920s through the movie ignores this timeline and present a modern setting with the addition of pop music and a soundtrack. The end of movie and novel. In the end, when Gatsby goes swimming, waiting for Daisy to call, he is shorted and take away from his dream of success, of getting the girl while the phone rings in the background. In both book and movie, Gatsby is waiting for a phone call from Daisy. But in the film, Nick's call and Gatsby gets out of the pool when he hears the phone ring. He's then shot and he dies, believing that Daisy was going to ditch Tom and go away with him. None of that happened in the book. In the novel, no one attend Gatsby's funeral, but in the movie, Owl Eyes and Gatsby's father are present. Difference in movie and novel. The book is told from the perspective of Nick Carraway, while the movie focuses on Gatsby himself. The Great Gatsby book and the movie is the perspective of the author and the director. The framework of the book is different from that of the movie. The book showcases as era, while the movie seems like a fancy party. Jordan Baker, the golf player, has a dishonest face in the novel. The movie shades out the necessary details of her character. Nick Carraway is portrayed as a self-conscious person in the novel. The movie exaggerates the darker phase in his life. Tom and Daisy have a very complicated relationship, and the movie better demonstrates their complex relationship than the book. The movie was filmed in Australia, despite being set in New York City. The movie set in the Australia, but the novel set in the New York City. In this novel, you will come across Jordan Baker quite often, but he does not play such a larger role on screen. While reading the Great Gatsby novel, Baker is accused of being a cheater when playing golf and he currently in engage. None of this is mentioned in initial movie adaptation. Similarities between movie and novel. The green one of the main ones is when Nick walks to Gatsby's backyard and find him standing at the edges of his dog reaching out the what was a green light. Both tell the story of Jack Gatsby, a wealthy man who is obsessed with a former flame. Both versions make use of flashback to feel the Gatsby's backstory. In the book, there is a green light that shines at the end of Daisy's dog, just as in the movie. The green light is symbolized a sign of hope that Gatsby and Daisy will one day be together. Both include a tragic ending. There is no denying that this version captures the essence of F. Scott Fitzgerald's classic novel. This is my work citation.
Nirali, how does the movie adaptation handle the relationship between Gatsby and Daisy? Comparison note.
In the movie and novel, there is many different between their relationship, because in the novel their relationship is undeveloped and unromantic, but in the movie their relationship is was very romantic and a very developed type of relationship.
Nirali, does the movie adaptation include all events and themes of the novel, or there are significant differences?
In the movie and novel, there were some differences between plot, narratives, characters, and other music, and the screening of the screening of a movie is in the movie there were green light symbol as different from the novel. Thank you.
Hello everyone, myself Payal Bambhaniya. In today's evening session, I am going to discuss about modernism in the Great Gatsby. Here is my personal details. Here is a points which I will going to discuss. Introduction of modernism, characteristic of modernism, Fitzgerald as a modernist writer, modernism in the Great Gatsby, and the conclusion. First, modernism is a style and a literary movement in art, architecture, and literature in the early 20th century in which ideas, methods, and techniques or materials were used rather than a traditional one. Modernism rejected the traditional and past form of writing and expression and added a new form of writing and expression. It focuses on a subjective techniques, stream of consciousness, and fragmented narratives. Characteristics of modernism, stream of consciousness, symbolism, absurdity, individuality, formalism, narrative technique, experimentation, and meaninglessness of life. uh, Introduction of Fitzgerald as a modernist writer. Uh, Fitzgerald is an American modernist writer. His work captured the disillusion of the post-war generation and the excess of the judge age. He uses symbols and figurative language in his works. Themes of his work like ambition, loss, love, class, wealth, and materialism. He is best known for his novel, The Great Gatsby. Uh, Modernism in the Great Gatsby. This is my point, topic of presentation. Fitzgerald shows many modernist technique in the Great Gatsby, like loss of control, corruption of American dream, breaking society's rules, and feeling restless. Uh, these are the point which I am going to discuss. Modernism in narrative technique, symbols, stream of consciousness, empty feeling and loneliness of individual, the meaninglessness of life. Modernism in narrative technique. Fitzgerald uses Nick Carraway as a first person narrator to tell us the story of the Great Gatsby. We can think, see, and understand throughout the narrator, Nick Carraway. Nick seems as a reliable narrator as well as unreliable narrator. Nick is absent in a two scene. First one is a Martell's murder scene, and the second one is Gatsby's murder scene. And but he is narrating both the scene, which made him an unreliable narrator. It provides us incomplete information and things because without presenting in a scenes or events, how anyone can trust in his narration. So this is a modern narrative technique. Modernity in symbols. First one is green light represent the hopes and dreams. Gatsby always hopes the one day Daisy come in his life, and another is American dream, which he tried to achieve. And second one is Dr. T.J. Eckelberg's eyes represent the eyes of God. The eyes of God we can interpret is as a camera in the present world. The camera capture the all the things which we under the we are work. And the value of ashes represent the capitalism and symbol of time. The Valley of Ashes is uh, industrial wasteland where the upper lower class peoples work there, and it present the industrial development of America. Stream of consciousness. Stream of consciousness is a narrative style that tries to capture a character's thought process in a realistic way. In the novel, everyone sees events and character through the Nick's thoughts and perception. Fitzgerald used this technique in certain parts of the novel. So, and another empty feeling and loneliness of individuals. The end of the novel feels kind of empty and loneliness. After all the struggle Gatsby has put into building his life to gain Daisy back, but she never came back and he lived alone in his home. The emptiness and loneliness of Joy Gatsby are not clear until the end of the novel, because his house is always filled with people who drink and dance all night and every weekend. Nobody came to the funeral ceremony of Joy Gatsby. It also symbolized the feeling of loneliness of individuals, the meaninglessness of life. Gatsby and all the other upper class individuals are living the American dream. However, this dream leads to the emptiness and meaninglessness in their lives. After fulfilling his dreams, Gatsby has nothing else to do in his life. He just wants money and Daisy Buchanan. He has no any other dreams, and it makes his life meaningless or purposeless. Uh, so I conclude my presentation here. According to C. Hughes Holleman, modernism is a strong and conscious break with traditional forms and techniques of expressions. Fitzgerald used these things and techniques in The Great Gatsby. Thus, we can say that the novel The Great Gatsby is a modern novel. Here is my work citation. Now you can ask me a question.
Payal, how did the first quote of Fitzgerald impact modernism?
How does how did F. Scott Fitzgerald impact modernism? According to me, Fitzgerald is under the impact of modernism. We can see the we can see through the technique and use of symbols in his novels. So the symbols and techniques symbolize the modernism. That's why we can say that. Fitzgerald impact on a modernism. Modernism impact on a Fitzgerald.
Payal, how the Great Gatsby portrayed emptiness or loneliness in the modern.
Uh, as I mentioned above in my PPT slide, the loneliness and emptiness we can see in the Great Gatsby. The novel's main theme, the disconnection with one another and isolation, which is symbolized the emptiness and loneliness in the modern era. Thank you.
Hello everyone. On the first day of SEM 2 presentation, on the SEM 2 presentation from the paper number 106, the 20th century literature 1900 to World War II, I choose the topic Yeats' religious quest and politics for my presentation. Here are my personal information. Now let's see something about W.B. Yeats and his life. William Butler Yeats, known by his short name W.B. Yeats, was born on June 13, 1865 in Sandymount, Dublin, Ireland, and died on January 28, 1939 in France. He was an Irish poet, dramatist, and prose writer, and one of the greatest English language poets of the 20th century. He was one of the founders of the Abbey Theatre in Dublin. His father, John Butler Yeats, was a descendant of Jervis Yeats, a Williamite soldier, Lenin merchant, and well known painter who died in 1712. His mother, Susan Pollexfen, was a daughter of a prosperous merchant in Sligo in Western Ireland. Now, soon after William's birth, the family relocated to the Pollexfen home at Sligo to stay with her extended family, and the young poet came to think of the area as his childhood and spiritual home. He proposed Maud Gunn more than 3 times in his life, but she never accepted. Then he ended up marrying Georgia Hydlis on 20th October 1970, when he was around 52 and she was only 26. Even though the age gap, their marriage was successful and had 2 children, Anne and Michael. Although in that later years he had romantic relationship with other women, Georgia herself wrote to her husband, "When you are dead, people will talk about your love affairs, but I shall say nothing, for I will remember how proud you were." This line connects before the marriage of this lady and Yeats, that everyone warned her that why you are marrying an old man, he will soon dead. Even though she married, the Nobel Prize in Literature 1923 was awarded to William Butler Yeats, and noted that for his always inspired poetry, which in highly artistic form gives expression to the spirit of a whole nation. Now, his writing style. Now, Yeats was a famous poet who lived in the 20th century. He used a writing style called symbolism, which means he used words and images to suggest deeper. We can see that in his poems, the Tower and On Being Asked for a War poem. The second coming symbol is symbols about this Wagner, and that he often used physical objects to represent larger and more important concepts. Yeats was indeed a modernist poet, but his style of writing was mostly in traditional form. In his poems, there are many things which draw our interests, like metaphors, symbols, political point of view, religion, sense of history, and humanity, etc. In his lifetime, mostly in last days, he wrote about his personal life more than traditional form, about his children, about his wife, and about a woman whom he loved, but she never accepted his proposal. We can see that in this poem by him named The Tower. In that tower, she mostly describe about that woman. Here are 2 lines: "Does the imagination dwell the most upon a woman won or woman lost?" Now, indeed, he is considered as a modern poet, but he also shows interest in areas like love, religion, mysticism, politics, aristocracy, history, historical myth, etc., which make him a remarkable poet of the 20th century. Here are some of his different kinds of poetry, which is different from each other. Now, religion and Yeats, how he connected with religion. Yeats' connection with religion is simply noticeable by his writing style, which he wrote poems. Yeats grew up during a time when power was shifting away from the Protestant minority in Ireland. In the 1880s, a man named Charles Stuart Parnell and his home rule movement became more influential. In the 1890s, there was a lot of support for nationalism, and Irish Catholics became more prominent. These changes had a big impact on Yeats' poetry, and his exploration of Irish identity played a major role in shaping how people understand the history of Ireland. Sprinkle of Christian religion about apocalypse invisible, the poem The Second Coming by him, which also gives the glimpse of terror about flu pandemic at that time. So here in this poem, there are two types of meaning. First is apocalypse, and second about pandemic and terror, and also this say a religion, Christian religion. Of course, he wrote religious poem, but they aren't devotional one. Devotional poetry means poetry which are for prayer and worship, but he wrote something different, of course, with religion, but something different. Now his connection with politics and his poem named Politics. When we talk about the connection between Yeats and politics, we firstly think about his very famous poem, which includes a political note named On Being Asked for a War Poem. Yeats was an Irish nationalist and appointed to the Irish Senate in 1922, which somehow is a cause of his political writing. It is now the poem named Politics, which describes uh, not a direct meaning of politics, as it describes. This poem has hints of politics in it, but considered it secondary and said, how can I focus on politics of Rome, Russia, and Spain while a charming girl standing besides me, which we can see in first lines. How can I, that girl stand there, my attention fixed on Roman or on Russian or on Spanish politics. Now, there are travelers and politicians who have knowledge about their own field, and what they are saying about war is also true. But who can focus on that when my young age calling love? This we can say in the last lines, that of course there are travelers and politicians and they saying about war and wars all around, but how can I focus on that and held her in my arm? Now, this poem, like his other poem, has a contradictory title. Of course, this poem has title named Politics, but he described politics as a secondary thing. He was talking about politics and war as if it is not necessary than love and women. This poem was written in 1938 during the Spanish Civil War and composed posthumously. This poem is most likely talking about his private feelings, which is important than politics and society. By referring to this above point, we can see that how he tries to distract the situation and tension which was happening at that time during the war time. Of course, because of this, there are so many movements also emerged, like this theater of absurd, comedy of manners, absurdity, and these things. So here is my work citation. Thank you. Um, my presentation is over. You can ask questions.
Yes, Pooja.
Which writing style of work makes him more famous? Yeats used to write in so many forms. He can write in religion, politics, and everything. But most of there are two writing style of him about his religion and politics, which I included in my presentation. It is the most famous and most likely to like him. He can write in these two things most important.
Pooja, how do you believe this poetry can be used to affect social and political change?
Um, of course, there are so many poems which he wrote for politics, which can aware how politics works and how we cannot issued in that politic thing. But when we talk about change, change is something that we human personally can feel by poems, by reading poems, and by by reading poems and saying things through the poem, it of course it is a first step of changing. The second step is changing when we think about it and when we apply in our life. His poems are direct satire on politics, and that's why it is more effective than other political poems, because in that poem sometimes it is a direct satire and sometimes it is symbolical satire, which made us thinking about this poem and think about how politics works really our life, and how this society and social thing works in our life.
Use that stand, the stone half, faces at the bottom only. When the comment comes, it is almost covered. And that will disturb that frame. So that, in that we are doing this. Now here we cannot do. Top line is disturbed. If you change that. So that remains settled. In green screen we can do that. But here we have to keep the camera steady. And we have to adjust accordingly. So it is not focused properly. Also, one side it is.
Physical.
Still, this is most cases. Okay, fine. Afterwards, tomorrow we will set it. Not very long. Share the screen. Present, click the present.
Hello, good afternoon to everyone. I am Rajeshwari and today I am presenting upon its poems. This is the points that I have mentioned in my PPT. W.B. Yeats was an Irish poet and dramatist and writer. William Butler Yeats is a widely considered to be one of the greatest poet of the 20th century. He is prominent poet in modern times for his sense of modern wellness and humanity and history. When he was starting his writing at that time, he was as starting as a romantic poet and gradually evoluted into a modernist poet. This is his some very best and important poems. Falcon and Falconer in his poem, The Second Coming, there is a line: turning and turning in the winding gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Here, the falcon and falconer as used as a symbol. Falcon is as a symbol of human being, and falconer is as a god. And this poem is also written after the World War I. So the impact of World War I is also we can see in this poem. Uh, 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 Yeats was a very spirituous person, and he was believe in Christianity. So this type of symbols are we can see in his poems. God. Now the falcon was at the height of his flying, so he can't able to listen the voice of god. That means falconer that he was using in a symbolical way. So in a world war situation, the countries are involved in war, but after that time no one is listening anyone's voice, and they are continuously fighting upon a war. This poem is also considered as a pandemic poem because of in 1980 there is a Spanish flu in that time. So we can also read it as a religious poem, pandemic poem, and a element of war poem. The symbol of chair. The gyre is a spiral cone shape and part of its complicated view of mysterious historical forces. As one gyre of history gives way, another one takes over. Generally, the shape of gyre is used in science and mathematics, but the WB it's used this symbol in literature, and he was very well discussed about this gyre in his work A Vision. Similarly, it may be said very truly that he is thinner in his verse than in his prose. So that we can say the idea of Jahar is not from literature, but he was putting it in a very well manner in literature. Its employs in the first line its nod to its mystical belief that historical repeats itself in cycles. Yeats regrets that the man has become from the restraints of morality, religion, and discipline. With the help of the symbol of Jair, Yeats try to say a person is now very go away from the center. And he was also make satire on modernity. In modern time, people lose their morality and their religion belief and other things. It is preoccupied with image, symbol, imagination, poetic process, and the role of the poet. It's more, however, than a discussion of on poetry, although it is less than a key to total understanding of the poem. It incorporates his own view of history and future through the image of the Jair. With the help of the image of Jair, he was tried to say about history. With the help of these circles of Jair, he is trying to apply the historical movements. Spirituous mundi, that is the one word it's come in his poem. The second part sounds this word spirituous mundi is coming in the second part of his poem. The second part sounds Christian in the beginning, but developed an image whose sources is not scripture but spirituous mundi, and which concerns something like Egyptian phoenix and passing of Christianity in his favor. This image is term he used for this collective unconsciousness of human being with its animal body and human head. Perhaps the beast says something about the nightmare to come. Although humans have tried to civilize themselves and improve their world, perhaps their more beastly animal nature has only been hidden, not defected. This how he He make something satire on human being. We can say the human are just look like as a human, but sometimes their behavior is not like a human. This type of hybrid creature is quite common in various mythologies, and it means to convey a kind of freakiness, a sense of nature somehow going wrong. This type of image is available in so many religion. In some religion, it's a good symbol, and in some religion, it's as a bad symbol. In Hinduism, we can see the Nursi avatar. It is related with this. In Hinduism, it's a symbol as a good, and sometime in other so many religions, this is as used as a bad image also. But the beast is not imitation Christ's second coming at all. It's imitating his first coming. Bethlehem. Christian believes that Bethlehem is the birthplace of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. It's shooted in the region that is known as, in contemporary time, it's known as Palestine. This Yeats can describe the second coming with the exhilaration not unlike the excitement and sense of pending rebirth which is accomplished in our horror at the events which have destroyed American compliancy in the last few years. This is the place where, in myth, people says the Christ was birth here. So this is the element of spiritual voice. So we can say the in so many religion there is a idea of second coming, avatar and other things. In Christianity there is a idea of the second coming. That means the Christian Jesus will come after 2000 years, and he makes earth very better. In Hinduism there is the idea of Kalki avatar, and in Islam there is the idea of Imam Malahi. So in every religion, this is the idea of the second coming. Uh, on being asked for a war poem, it's WB. It's another poem, and it's written in 1950 in the response of his friend's question. His friends tells him to write about contemporary situation, and at this time contemporary situation is ongoing world war. So he doesn't want to write anything about war and world war related thing, but he don't refuse him in a direct way, but he tell refuse in a way of he used the way of poetry. In his poem there is a verbal irony, pacifist voice and dystopian vision. uh, in a verbal irony we can say he's not directly don't allow to write about it, but he write and he tell I am not writing about war and other things. So that is we can say as a verbal irony and pacifist voice. In India, we can see Mahatma Gandhi has the voice of pacifist. A pacifist voice, that means pacifist. That is a term, a person who is not believe in who is against war and violence. So he was also against this type of thing. So that's why he wrote this poem. A, po- a poet's mouth be silent, for in truth here the word poet's mouth, that means a poetry, a poetry, for poet's mouth is his poetry. So we can say the a poet does not encourages war and other this type of violence, and he refuses in this type of manner. And dystopian vision, and the last two line of this poem is reflect the dystopian vision, and that is because of world war. The poem was prefaced with the note stating, and this is the line by W. Yeats, I quote, "It is the only thing I have written of the war or will write, so I hope it may not seem unfitting." I unquote. Uh, Bertrand Russell was one of the famous philosopher, and what's happened in contemporary, if someone is trying to refuse, that is what's happening in right now in time. So sometimes people don't accept their ideas, and after the time going, people also accept their ideas and also celebrate their ideas. So the same thing happens with this philosopher Russell. So we can in World War One, he was a refused idea of war and involving involvement of British participant in war. But at that time, British government don't allow him to make his stand against the government, and he was, because of this idea of against the war, he was in prison, and at that time people are don't support him. But after the time, he was come out from prison, and he was as a celebrated, people celebrated his idea. So we can say, when some new people are making new ideas, at that time maybe people refuse it, but after that time their people are also, and their child also celebrate this type of ideas. Conclusion: what was it that the poets promised you? If it was not their sorrow, it fills beside the demands of poetry upon conscious, continuous followers of the poetic profession, fills the identification of the poet with his art. Thank you. Now, this is my work cited. Now I'm open for question answer.
Rajeshvariba. So, according to your point of view, which symbol you describe in your PPT can be more reliable and applicable in his poems?
According to my point of view, the symbols that he was using, because of he was come from a religious background and he believe in religious, so that's why his work is influenced by the symbol that is from come his identity and other things. So he was using spiritual symbol, and on second poem he was using symbol against the poem, and Yeats was very well famous for his symbolism. Thank you.
How do you view the relationship between history and the human condition of that era, as expressed in the poem?
The people of those who are living on that time, this type of their contemporary situation affect them, and in this time the history is that time the history is World War One and World War Two. So people are affected with this type of war, and aftermath effect of wars. So a poet also write upon it and express in his poem. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today is the first day of our Sem 2 presentation. Here is my personal information. Today I am dealing. Today I am deal to. Today I am deal to with the theme of the Westland. Here is a points to be pondered, which I have deal. First of all, about the author. The Westland poem was written by T.S. Eliot, whose full name Thomas Stern Eliot. He was born 26 September 1888, St. Louis, Missouri, in United States. He was died on 4th January 1965, London, United Kingdom. He was great poet, essayist, publisher, playwright, literary critic, and editor. He was one of the 20th century major poets. He is a central figure in English language modernist poetry. His most notable works are the Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, the Westland Middlemarch for Quartets, the Halloween Tradition, and the Individual Talent, Prelude, etc. 4th November 1948, T.S. Eliot wins the Nobel Prize in Literature for his profound effects on the direction of modern poetry. Let's discuss about the poem. The Westland Long poem by T.S. Eliot, published in 1922, the 433-line and five-part poem was dedicated to fellow poet Ezra Pound. It was one of the most influential works of the 20th century. In the first section, the burial of the dead introduces the diverse themes of the disillusionment and despair. The second section, a game of chess, employs alternating narration in which vignettes of several characters address those themes experientially. In the third section, its title reference to the Buddhist fire sermon, which encourage the individual to liberate himself from suffering through detachment from the five senses and the conscious mind.
The fourth and shortest section of the poem, Death by Water, describes a man, Phoebus and Phoenician, who has died apparently by drowning. The final section of the Westland is a dramatic in both its imagery and its event. The first half of the section builds to an apocalyptic climax as a suffering people became hooded hordes swarming and the unreal cities of Jerusalem, Antioch, Alexandria, Venia, and London are destroyed, rebuilt, and destroyed again. Now let's discuss about the theme of the Westland. First of all, death. The Westland embraces death by engaging the reader in desolation, which is something that is often tied into death itself. Death brings with it the desolation of loneliness. He uses death to allude to the death and rebirth of Christ, using the death of Christ as a symbol of the death of religion in the modern world. The second theme was renewal and rebirth. The theme of renewal and rebirth is a recurring throughout the Westland. There are several major concepts of the poem that contribute to this idea of renewal. The poem begins in the month of April, the beginning of spring, which is a symbol of renewal and growth after the harsh winter months. The season. The basic theme of the Westland is the disillusionment of the post war generation and sterility of the modern man. The critics have commented on the theme in the different words: vision of desolation and spiritual drought by F.R. Lewis, and the second, the plight of the whole generation, which was given by I.A. Richardson. Love. The references to Tristan and Isolde in The Burial of the Dead, to Cleopatra in Game of Chess, and to the story of Teres and Philomela, suggests that love in the Westland is often destructive. Tristan and Cleopatra die while Teres rapes Philomela, and even the love for his Hystenic girl leads the poet to see and know nothing. Water. Water is a symbolic for cleansing and rebirth, as well as death and destruction. In part 3, the fire sermon, the main setting of the poem is the Thames River in London, England. Before any other major themes are introduced, the river is explained as a being peaceful and embodied. History. The Westland can be viewed as a poem about brokenness and loss, and Eliot's numerous allusions to the First World War suggest that the war played a significant part in bringing about this social, psychological, and emotional collapse. Here is my work cited. Now I am open for question.
Riddhi, so how the theme of death and rebirth you presented in your PPT connected with each other?
In the Westland, Eliot shows the society, death and death can be death can be only come with renewal and rebirth.
Riddhi, these all themes of Westland is for which central theme?
In the Westland, main theme was water, death, and rebirth.
Hello everyone, I am Rinkal and my today's topic is Buchanan, Gatsby and Fitzgerald, Wealth and the American Dream. That was always my experience. A poor boy in a rich town, a poor boy in a rich boys' school, a poor boy in a rich man's club at, at Princeton. However, I have never been able to forgive the rich for being rich. And it has colored my entire life and works by Fitzgerald. These are my academic informations and introduction of author. Francis Scott Fitzgerald was an American author of 20th century. He was born on September at St. Paul and he attended Princeton University. He captured the spirit of Jazz's age, a period of culture and artistic vitality of America during 1920s. Fitzgerald's personal life was marked by his tumultuous relationship with his wife Zelda and his struggles with alcoholism. He was also known for his elegant and lyrical prose style, which has been praised for its clarity and precision. Introduction of the novel. The Gatsby is a novel written by Fitzgerald and published in 1925.
It has set in the summer of 1922 in the fictional town the West Egg on Long Island, New York. It tells the story of J. Gatsby, a wealthy young man who throws extravagant parties in the hope of winning back his former love, Daisy. Novel is considered a masterpiece of American literature and a symbol of roaring 20s. These are the characters of the main characters. Tom Buchanan, he is an old money and hypocritical person of the novel. And Jay Gatsby, a self-made man. He had made himself at this level. He was born in North Dakota. Daisy Buchanan, a wife of Tom Buchanan and beloved of Gatsby. Myrtle Wilson, wife of George Wilson and mistress of Tom, lives in the Valley of Ashes. That I have matched this color with Tom and Myrtle and Daisy and Gatsby. That they were having some kind of extramarital affairs, and though this both were Tom and Daisy, both were from old money people. That they were didn't struggling for the making money and their life. And that Gatsby and Myrtle, Gatsby, however, made himself at the level of that richness. He was a millionaire, and Myrtle was just trying to be a rich person, and throughout his personality. These are the wealth and the social status. Importance of wealth and status is constantly presented in the novel. The significance of wealth and the effect that is has on Daisy becomes apparent as Gatsby makes his re-entry into Daisy's life. I suppose the latest thing is to sit back and let Mr. Nobody from nowhere make love your wife. The dialogue is from Tom Buchanan, and these are the most significant things that these are notable. That Mr. Nobody from nowhere, which means there was no identity of Gatsby as an rich person. He was not that much having social status. And though Gatsby succeeds in the acquiring wealth, he never accepted by the upper class. And Tom and Daisy, old money people, and Buchanan is from new money. The only one who questions Gatsby's alleged schooling and background is Tom Buchanan, who find it ridiculous that Gatsby would have attended Oxford. Time and again, this Tom is having some kinds of jokes with Gatsby that I suppose you have got to make your house into a pigsty in order to have any friends in the modern era. The American Dream. American Dream was coined by James Truslow Adams in 1931, saying that life should be better and richer and fuller for everyone, with opportunity for each according to ability or achievement, regardless of social class or circumstances of birth. It has also points that anyone, no matter their origins, can work hard and achieve upward mobility in the United States. Fitzgerald specially critiques the American dream within the context of the Roaring Twenties, a time when growing affluence and changing morals led to a cultural materialism. The American dream is not to be a reality in minds of a man like Gatsby, whom it destroys their espousal and relentless pursuit of it. The American dream turned in a reality really a nightmare. And Emerson saw that American dream as the opportunity to ask questions for which man was made. Gatsby and Fitzgerald, the American Dream. Both Fitzgerald and Gatsby joined the army during the First World War, and both fell in love with women at the locations they were stationed. As Gatsby became millionaire, Fitzgerald and Zelda were the members of newly rich class by the income of their writings. They both were writing for the sake of money. And the contributions Fitzgerald experienced and put into fiction heightened the implications of dream for individual lives. For Fitzgerald and Gatsby, their love was inspiration to achieve wealth. That for Gatsby, it was Daisy, and for Fitzgerald, it was Zelda. That they both inspired them that they need money and they can't stay that poor, and that's why they started earning money and started dreaming that beautiful dream of money and high class, a dream which caused a tragedy into lives. Critics have noted that the wasteland of Gatsby, Fitzgerald may have had the Valley of Hinnon in the mind when he created the Valley of Ashes. In Wasteland, that was a particular era when this the modern time caused sexual perversions, and all the morals were lost, and the people were going uh, into more and more materialism. What business you are in? Nick was asking to Gatsby. That is my affair. Straight reply of Gatsby. That from where that money comes, and Nick had asked to Gatsby, and Gatsby didn't answer the properly. I was man divided. She wanted me to work too much for her and not enough for my dream. Fitzgerald in the one of his letters said that Zelda was one who told him to earn more and more. Fitzgerald confessed to his daughter in a bone-scraping passage. He compromised his artist's dream in inching the very thing that inspired him, romantic love of Zelda. It took only 3 years to earn the money for the house for Gatsby. I found out what your drugstores were. Corruption done by Gatsby and to reach his dream. And throughout, he defeated by Tom Buchanan and Daisy. They, this Gatsby was doing many corrupted things or prohibited things like selling of grained liquor and some kind of drugs. They were not permission was not given to solve it, and that is how he became rich. And though he became that rich and millionaire he was, though Daisy didn't accepted him, in spite of Tom, that he was having that social status which Daisy wanted to have. She never wanted to lose that status. These are my works cited. And she vanished into her rich house, into her rich, full life, leaving Gatsby nothing. And this how these things are ending. Thank you. Now you can ask me questions.
Rinkal, how did the American dream affect Gatsby's personal love life?
Okay. Here in the novel Great Gatsby, that person Gatsby was in love with Daisy Buchanan, wife of Tom. Before the marriage of Daisy, he didn't told that he is not that much rich, and felt in love with Daisy, and Daisy was also loving him. But when Daisy married, uh, he come to know when he returned from the army and came to know that Daisy is married to a very rich man named Tom. He tried to be as much rich as Tom and to earn a social status like him, and then Daisy perhaps will accept him rather than Tom. And but still Daisy did it. Another one?
Rinkal, what is Fitzgerald's view of the American dream in The Great Gatsby?
Fitzgerald's view, especially he was also affected by that American dream. That he also struggled with his own dreams. That he was liking Keats and that lyrical poetry and all that. Though he compromised his hobby, artist style and hobbies and writing, he was writing for earning, and he was also having a alcoholism problem, that he drink a lot of alcohol, and though he was trying to show readers that how American dream was affecting individuals. Thank you.
Hello everyone, a very good noon to all. My topic of today's presentation is Repetition of the Past, F. Scott Fitzgerald and the Great Gatsby. These are my personal details. These are the points that I'm going to discuss in the presentation. Let's first begin with the introduction of the novel itself. The Great Gatsby is a novel written by F. Scott Fitzgerald in 1925, which is considered as a classic American fiction and also called as the Great American Novel. The whole novel is narrated by Nick Carraway, and Jay Gatsby is the central character of the novel. And the whole novel is based on how the dream of Jay Gatsby is being explored throughout the novel. Jay Gatsby's love for Daisy leads him to the desire to repeat the past. Here, I will deal with repetition of the past in two ways. Literary past in a broader way, in which about F. Scott Fitzgerald and the Great Gatsby, and personal past of J. Gatsby in the Great Gatsby. Literary past, let's talk about literary past. F. Scott Fitzgerald was influenced by many literary writers, including James Joyce, Joseph Conrad, and John Keats also. Influence of these writers leads Fitzgerald to repeat the literary past. Repetition of the literary past, in a sense, he is trying to imitate the pattern used by those writers of his time. Let us first discuss the literary past. In F. Scott Fitzgerald, James Joyce's most devoted admirer, J.D. Thomas notes that a number of critics have discussed Joycean echoes in Fitzgerald's early works and have made passing reference to the events that led to an acquaintance between the two writers. In the work of James Joyce, a portrait of the young artist as a young man, Fitzgerald declares it as the 10 best novel he has ever read. Fitzgerald, Mayor Jefferson, in Conrad's influence on modern writers, says that Fitzgerald told that he had learned a lot from Conrad and has consciously imitated him in the Great Gatsby in a way of style, symbolism, plot, narration, and theme of romantic illusion. Tom Casino, in his article Fixing Everything in the Great Gatsby, also tries to depict about the how Heart of Darkness of Joseph Conrad and the Great Gatsby is connected. He tries to connect Kurtz and Gatsby, both the central characters of the story, which are in a way introducing the same aspects, whereas Marlowe and Nick both are the narrator of the story, and they represent the in a same way, they observe in a same way. Tom Cousin also explains about admits that John Keats has also a very much very deep influence on Fitzgerald as well. Now let's try to look at the Great Gatsby, about J. Gatsby's desire to repeat the past. Gatsby's desire to be rich stands for the American dream itself. His desire to repeat the past to get his love back. The only his desire to get his love back leads him to repeat the past. He in one conversation between him and Nick, Nick says that one cannot repeat the past, where he says that can't repeat the past. Why? Of course you can. I'm gonna fix everything just the way it was before. So in a way, he tries to go back far. He wants to repeat the thing way back 5 years to get his love back. He tries to erase the past as well, what he was in his earlier days, he coming from newly rich people. So one conversation between Jordan and Nick, there is about the
past discussion of past of J Gatsby comes, and Jordan says that I had been making a small Nick says that I said I had been making a small investigation of his past. So Jordan says that, and you find he was an Oxfordman. So there is always a kind of doubt that whether he had studied in Oxford University or not. J. Gatsby is also admits that his ancestors, his forefathers have also studied in universities. So he tries to again and again tries to lie and erase the past. Gatsby purchases a mansion across the bay from Daisy Buchanan's house. I thought of Gatsby's wonder when the first picked out the green light at the end of Daisy's dock. He had come a long way to his blue lawn in his dream, must have seemed so close that he could hardly grasp it. So he Gatsby is very much near to his to do the thing that he wanted, and it is also explained by the narrator that there is no chance to fail. But what happens at the end? Gatsby fails. Now, reunion of Gatsby and Daisy is being considered as the culmination of the story. In one conversation between Daisy and Gatsby, Daisy says that, "Oh, you want too much," and say, I love you. Isn't that enough? I can't help what's the past," as she has now married with Tom Buchanan, a wealthy person. She began to sob helplessly. "I did love him once, but I loved you too." This too means a lot to Gatsby. Gatsby was thinking that she got married to Tom Buchanan because of his wealth and to be settled. But here he got a kind of complete disaster when she says, "I loved you too." The beginning career of our central character Gatsby and ending of the of our character both are also same. So we can beat on boards against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. This is the last line of the novel, which shows futility of our attempts to escape the past, even as we look to future, dreaming how tomorrow we will run faster and stretch out our arms further and further. So at the end, Gatsby is dead, killed by Myrtle's husband, and he is lying in a house where is nobody with him except his father and his friend Nick. And his identity is revealed now as that he is newly reached people in back west time and place. In the Great Gatsby, Barry Gross explains how a man living in the West Egg, after so much endeavor to be rich and successful enough to get his love back, tries to repeat the past, can never do it. As he says, not even the Great Gatsby can do that. The title is given the Great, but the Great Gatsby can't even repeat the past. But at the end, Gatsby reaches at his past where there is no one with him except his father and Nick. And this situation is, as a reader, we feel like the whole desire of Gatsby to look back into past, to repeat the past, has been completely fallen into pieces. So to conclude, where I begin, I can't repeat the past. Why? Of course you can. So Fitzgerald successfully repeats the literary past in a way of imitation of styles of writers by the influence of literary writers of the past, or we can say their fellow writers. J. Gatsby's desire to repeat the past leads him to his downfall in both the ways: desire to get love of Daisy and to be reputed person. Now he is no more a reputed person as his truths are being revealed, and the love of Daisy is also being vanished. So this is all about my presentation. Now I'm open for questions. Is it for me?
Right in the beginning for whom, so it can be identified. The next one, second one. Be ready, I have to remind again and again, less than that. For the fourth time, I have to remind within 2 hours. You have to be ready with your things. એટલી વારમાં કઈ દુનિયામાં ખોવાઈ જાવ છો કે ભૂલાઈ જાય કે આ કામ કરવાનું બાકી છે.
Trushali, which are the similarities between the repetition of past of Fitzgerald and Gatsby?
The similarities between the repetition of past of Fitzgerald and Gatsby. Here I have taken Fitzgerald about his literary past, like the Joseph. He adapts the method of Joseph Conrad's and James Joyce. Like the character traits and overall plot are same in a way, though the distribution of the various events is different, but in a way character traits and construction of the story is in a way same. So in this way, even the Great Gatsby and as I have mentioned earlier, the Heart of Darkness, both are quite similar to each other. The character of Kurtz and Gatsby and Marlowe and this our narrator Nick. So in this way, we can see the similarities between Fitzgerald and the Great Gatsby itself.
Trushali, how does the repetition of the past contribute to the overall mood and tone of Fitzgerald's works?
The story is based on the desire of our central character Jay Gatsby, who is newly rich people, and he tries to become rich. That he has decided into when he was I think he was in his childhood, and the overall mood and the tone of this the Great Gatsby is based on the past, how one character is doing endeavor to repeat his past, to go back in his past to get his love back. So this is all. So thank you so much.
Very good noon to all of you. Today I will present a feminist approach to the Great Gatsby. Here is my personal detail. Here is a key point of a presentation of this presentation: introduction to the Great Gatsby, historical background and feminism, feminist literary criticism, general concept and attitude. Compare with the traditional men and compare with the traditional women, and then conclusion. First of all, introduction to the Great Gatsby. The story was written for Nick's point of the view. Nick came to the New York from his home in the Midwest, right next to the Stanley home of the book's protagonist Gatsby. When Gatsby was a young, he lost his heart to the wealthy woman named Daisy. But he lost her at the time because he was a poor and forced to the war. When he came back from the when he came back the war, he did business in a illegal way and become a man with a largely amount of money. Daisy married Tom, who had a many mysteries, so that Daisy married life was not happy. Material satisfaction could not fill her spiritual void. Gatsby did everything just to Daisy, and he came back waiting married with Daisy. At last, he was dead for Daisy, but nobody came to his funeral except his father and his friend Nick. Since Nick's witness and deeply desired the human reality of the ingratitude, he left the in New York City. Second one is historical background and feminism. Feminism usually means a movement of a recognition of the claim of a woman for a right in a legal, political, feminine field, etc., equal to those posed by men in a both sense of feminism. He expressed three ways. He first wave started from late 17th century to early 19th century. It was influenced by French Revolution and Enlightenment movement in 1719. Green published the Declaration of a Woman Rights, which became the document of a movement. The Great Gatsby is a work of the 19th-20th century, a period when upwells of every aspects and talking place. Therefore, a relative the general role reflect in his novel is of importance in influence of the First World War. First World War social are reshaped and people began to refine women's role and status in society, and also their duty and responsibility to the society. What's more, women's movement at that time for women right to vote the final success. Reside that demand. Third one is feminist literary criticism. Feminist literary criticism, which emerged in the 19th-16th century, is a literary criticism theory developed by the women and liberation movement in the European and United States at that time. Feminist literary criticism holds that it is necessary to make a new interpretation of a literary works from the perspective of the woman, to criticize the male center of Western civilization and the behavior of a distortion the imagination image of a woman in male literary and the excuse at the established woman's own literary tradition. The literary tradition and change the particularly center based. Feminist literary criticism has always focused on the classes and authority in the protest to the experience gender equality, and they changed the particular rooted in the field identity. Ideology. Third, a general concept and attitude. First of all, Daisy's concept of being a woman is a totally different from that the previous generation. For a traditional norm, women had other role other than those of other than those of the wife and mother, and in a particularly motherhood is considered as a woman's good god give God-given purpose, it importance in universal as, accepted. Thus, the motherhood become the central part of the familiar role. According to them, child burning and rearing are the basic cause of opportunity become a responsibility. For children was a conflict, woman to the home in all or along all society. At the first generation in history, they were going to creating loving, respectful, or generally relationship between those. The novel protagonist Daisy like here the dialogue. She is a nice girl. Said Tom after a moment. They out to let her run around the country his way. Who out on to inquiry Daisy coldly her family. Her family is and about 1,000 year old. Beside the Nix going to the look after her. Not next, she is going to spend last week and out her this summer. I think the home influence will be a very good for Daisy and Tom. Look at each other moment. From this conversation, the reader could easily. From this conversation, the reader could easily infer that Tom is a very traditional man. There is a indicational previous in this novel. For example, Tom once says, "Boy, God, I may be." Tom says that, "By God, I may be a old fashionist in my ideas, but women run around too much these days to." So to me, the com- compare with the traditional men. Moreover, as a Daisy is a modern woman, her attitude toward marriage is a quite different from Tom, who traditional men. Daisy and Tom quite different mentally. Their thinking style and their very much different in this novel. There is a disagreement between her and Tom as for her own marriage. Daisy feels rather hurt and depressed. She reveals her true emotions to Nick in the novel. It I will show you how I will gotten to feel about things. Well, she was less than an hour old and Tom was a good known when I wake up out of the other within with an eternally abandoned feeling and asked the nurse right away if it was a boy or a girl. She told me it was a girl, and so I turned my hand away and wept. Here this is our dialogue of the text. As this dialogue is represent as a reader, we can inter that Daisy is not happy with her marriage, and we could even says that is a tragedy. Her daughter, the first and the only child she is with Tom, of course, is considered to be the fruit of their marriage. But Tom was absent, probably be having fun somewhere at the time when the baby boy was born. This means that Tom does not care about her and their marriage of the family of their family. In the deep mind of Tom, the woman is still tool. However, Daisy does not think so. She wants to her marriage and family to be one it used to be. What she really wants is not a happiness for a economically satisfaction, but the love and care from her husband. Tom was not care her, and she not have and Daisy was not happy to her marriage. In our society, all women, some people like money is all of me, but not everyone. In this novel, Daisy, Daisy. Daisy wants not my economically happiness, but she want a love, care, and by there is husband. We can Daisy, we can see suffer a lot, be a new woman pursuing the true happiness. Thus, she comes to the conclusion that is the world world. The best thing a girl can do is to be a fool. This does not mean that she is really wants to daughter to be a fool. Uh, uh, Initially, what is truly in her mind is that she wants to prevent her daughter from suffering, and she would rather prefer her daughter to be a fool and have no idea about anything and have a feeling. Compared with a traditional woman, Daisy attitude. Uh, Compared with the traditional woman, Daisy attitude toward marriage is also different for the traditional woman. Women's attitude toward marriage is represented by the social norms of that time. According to Simone behavior, marriage at that time are like this marriage then are not generally founded upon a love. As a frequent put it, thus the husband is, so to speak, never more than a substitution for the beloved man. Not that man himself at this dissection is in no way accidental. It is implied in the very nature of a institution. The aim of which is to make the economics and the sexual union of a man and woman. Marriage is the destiny traditionally offered to women by the society. However, according to Daisy, her destiny is not decided by her marriage by but herself. This could be inferred by her reaction to Tom's affair and her affair with Gatsby. When Tom does not disguise his interest in other women, she reacts like this. Go ahead, answer Daisy genuinely, and if you want to take down any address, here's my little gold pencil. Of course, she does. She does care about her of course, she does care about her marriage, and while Tom has an affair, she feels sad and depressed. However, she does not accept her separately like other women who are dependent by their husband. She take the challenge, and she even defined Tom. She walked close to Gatsby, touching his coat with her hands. Her flirting with another man, even in her husband, present strongly indicate her rejection and justification of her husband and their marriage. As a modern woman, she bravely express her need and make her feeling known. Therefore, Daisy's modernity is a reflect both by her modern thought and professionally. In the novel, Daisy attitude, the modern thoughts, and their mentality in reflect when she rejected their husband and so many depression, she suffering, but she was not. Quite that, but she was strongly stand for herself, so the novel reflected the modern thought and performance. Conclusion, although female character in The Great Gatsby seem subject to men and they are not able to master their lives like the traditional women, the change a lot not only in behavior. The main character, Daisy's attitude toward marriage and family are largely different from traditional men and women, which implies Fitzgerald concern about women. In The Great Gatsby, the author depict the difference between traditional women and the female character, particularly Daisy, which indicate their modernity. Therefore, the Gatsby can be considered as a woman book that reflection women's change and showing their modernity. Here my work cited. Thank you. If any question, you can ask me.
Upasana. Upasana, as you have mentioned, the traditional ways of looking at the feminist approach of the Great Gatsby, can we connect feminist approach depicted in the Great Gatsby with our modern world, especially in Indian context?
Yes, we can connect we can connect the Great Gatsby in our modern world, especially in India. In a so uh, in a in this society, woman more independent than men. She is not capable able to the men. She was working, and she capable. She is not only a work housewife. She all the, you can say, she you see the all woman mm, all woman all women are working and independent in our society. So we connect modern we connect the Great Gatsby in our modern world.
Upasana, when the concept of nurturing comes to women in these days, how long it goes similar and different to the context of days?
Nurturing comes to the woman in these days similar and different way in the daisy. You see daisy attitude is very different to the traditional woman. In this time we see we see the daisy. All women thoughts are a daisy. Just like she is independent. She is not dependent on a man, and she was depressed, but she was not lost their strength, and she was so wake up and stand their self. So similar and if similarities daisy. So thank you.
Okay, let it be that. No problem. Okay, so this was the first day and a brief overview, a quick brief overview of the things. First thing, normally everybody has prepared good slides. Content is also reasonably good also on your slides. One thing that you need to do is to go beyond the syllabus and try to compare this with some other text or some other media also. You can film, painting, or any other thing also. That will be good idea if you try to go beyond the syllabus and try to connect with something else. So when you will apply your understanding in your comparative things, it will become easy for us to understand whether you are grabbing the concept properly or not. When you apply, at that time we come to know. In the morning we had a couple of such presentations where they were trying to see some film together, so we can say that still this is a shallow way of looking at the things. So basic concept is not clear, so you are connecting with another one. So if you do that, you will come to know whether you have understood the things deeply or not. uh, Secondly, eye contact. Most of you are still reading the screen. So if there is no laptop, then how will you read? So someday we will do that. That you have prepared the slides, so you are aware. So you don't have to change the slide. I will change the slides, and you will speak orally without seeing on the board also. So if we have not kept the laptop, you will be just looking at the board only, as most of you have done in the classroom presentation. So you will not be able to face camera or audience when you do that. So that is the point we have to overcome. Slides are just to take help so that you get the link of ideas. You read two lines or two words and you know what to speak. You don't have to read each and every word. Then that is done. Then you go to next slide, and just 2 words you read, you know now what I have to speak. So you will speak in that. You might have seen in seminar when there are slides are there, but the presenters don't read each and every line. They talk a lot about what is there, and so many things they talk is not on the slides also. So that is what you have to practice.
I had just died last semester. That even I remember something and I didn't written in slides. And then I was remembering and speaking. And though sometimes something I was missing. And then this time I did it when everything is in front of our eyes. And, I just wanted, I don't want to commit any mistake and I want to speak perfectly. That's
So
why I can't stop myself to teach and
looking at, so you be conscious, but that is what you have to overcome, that also you don't have to do. That mistake is not done. But at the same time you maintain eye contact with audience or with camera. So if you look into camera, then when you will watch video, it seems like you are talking with the viewers. Otherwise you are just reading the slide. So try to do that. Something difficult quote you read, it is fine. But other things you try to speak orally also. Time 8 minutes. Try to maintain the time. Some of you are taking a bit longer time. uh, Insia, I shared some of the links in WhatsApp. I have supported that when you go for biographers, then who are the best biographers? That is our first question. So whichever topic we think of, uh, first I have to go to the origin of that topic, from where I get the basic concept of that idea. In feminism also, like many of you are going to some website or Britannica website. Instead you can go to MH Abraham's glossary of literary terms, which is, so far as literature is concerned, more authentic than other source. So you can refer to that to understand the basic concept. If you want to have a definition of literary definition, MH Abraham, if you will go to MH Abraham, you will also get a good resource also there. So if you have a question, whom to cite, where are the qualitative resources? If you still have that doubt and you are not able to ask that from where to find, then M.H. Abraham's book also will help. It gives a list of qualitative work at the end of all entries. In that, at the end, there are the list of writers and the qualitative works. So that can help you. Then searching that book, referring to that, asking internet again what is in this book, and then you can make your things in a better way. So in case you don't know how to find qualitative, then this glossary of literary terms or such kind of encyclopedia of literature are very helpful to get into that concept. So that was there for Insia. Okay, Mansi also. Okay, so when you that was about symbolism. So very general theme or symbols, and these are like a classic text, very old texts. If it is contemporary text, recently written in last 5-10 years, you talk about symbols or characters or theme, then it is still useful. But very old text, then symbols, themes are found everywhere. Like what new you will present on that will be surprising, unless you have found new symbols. Then it becomes, you use 2-3 symbols which people are talking, and you say that this also can be the symbol, and you add your symbols, then it is fine. Otherwise it is already available, and that way making a presentation is very easy. You don't have to do anything, just wake up in the morning, 30 minutes, and your PPT is ready. So that way you get everything, and you copy paste the things, and they are there. So nothing of your own comes, and something that is so much available that. So in such general things, add something of your own. What are the things which you think can be added by your side? Let it be wrong, we will correct only, no, but you have thought something that will be appreciated, that you have thought something in a different way. So do that. When you take very general topic, then try to add something of your understanding also. Nirali on film adaptation was there. That was still good. Try to study the things. Payal on modernism. Study material sites are cited a lot. So referring. So when you refer to that, we come to know what source you are going to. So if your source is of quality, your work may possibly of good quality. But if your source is of poor quality, there is no chance that your work can be of better quality. Because from where એટલે જે આપણે કહીએ કૂવામાં હોય તો અવેડામાં આવે એટલે તમારો જે કૂવો છે એ જ છીછરો હોય તો તમે જે લઈને આવશો એ બહુ ઓછું જ હશે. So that's why we ask for what is the source from where you are referring to. Pooja also did well, well presented also, well answered also. All the question also you can give in detail answer. When you answer the question in detail, you again exemplify that you know about that concept in detail. That is what from your confidence and the way you answer it, it gets reflected. Yeats' life was there, so there were good biographers mentioned, so qualitative biographers which are known. So when we want to know about Yeats' life, who becomes qualitative biographer? Again, these things are very handy. We should just have a question to ask. I should have that question that I asked to Google, that which are the best biographers of this writer. So easy. પણ એ પ્રશ્ન ત્યારે ન થાય એનું શું કરવું? એ પ્રશ્ન થવો તો જોઈએ. તો હવે કયા પછી ઈઝી લાગે. તો પહેલા એ પ્રશ્ન કેમ બધાને ન થાય કે ચલો આ બાયોગ્રાફ હું રિફર કરું, આ બેસ્ટ ક્વોલિટીના છે, શું કરવું? ચલો આ રીતે ગૂગલને પૂછી. લેટેસ્ટ ગૂગલ પાસે જવાબ, ચલો ચેટ જીપીટીને પૂછી કે શું આવે છે. ચેટ જીપીટીના જવાબ સાચા ન હોય પણ મેચ થાય તો વી કેન સે ઓકે ફાઇન, ધીસ ઇઝ ગુડ. સો this point કે કોને પૂછવું, કઈ રીતે પૂછવું જેથી જવાબ મળે, એ બહુ બહુ મોટામાં મોટી આજની જરૂરિયાત સ્કિલ્સમાં આવે. ડિજિટલ સ્કિલ્સ જેને કહેવાય, વેબ ક્વેસ્ટ કહેવાય. So this then you how to ask and you get in, if you don't get information. એટલે પ્રશ્ન ન કરતા તો જવાબ ક્યાંય ન મળે. જવાબ બધે છે જ પણ પ્રશ્ન કરતા એ રીતે આવડવો જોઈએ કે જેથી આપણે એ ત્યાં પહોંચી શકીએ. Rajeshvari also presented quite well. Riddhi, that question was asked, Rajeshvari, to you, that what is the main theme? So main theme is not death, rebirth. That is the theme that is about. Main theme is about this spiritual degeneration, sexual perversion. Time and again we have used that in the class, but important thing, you should remain present in the class. Class માં હાજર હોય, પેલા ફિઝિકલી હાજર હોય તો કંઈક જાય, પછી મેન્ટલી પણ હાજર રહેવું પડે. એમને એમ તો હાજર રહ્યા હોય થોડી વાર તો પછી માનસિક રીતે ક્યાંક ગુમ થઈ ગયા હોય તો we cannot get this idea also. Rinkal, you have cited several gestures. Today morning also we have seen this, and so you also watch that last part of the video where when we are discussing several things in last part, that many of them have cited gesture articles, but nothing is used from that. Things which are used are from other source, but like it will look good, so they have cited. Now this is not just to cite to look good, you have to do good also. It will automatically look good. So you don't have to work to look good, you have to try to do good, and then it will automatically look good. But some people have posted gesture articles, but nothing is taken from that article. Just for a show. In showcase, we put several things. So gesture articles and links are put in the showcase. So I will search the gesture word, keyword, and I will see whether that word is found within the slide also or not. If I will find that within the slide also, then I will think that, okay, you have taken at least something from that article. So if it is not found, then it is not appropriate way of you. You have just put it there so that it looks good. But otherwise, you have not cited it. What is the title? Works cited. If you are not cited, what are those works doing there? Why are they there if they are not cited? So that was found in Rinkal also. Some of those were. So in text also you have to put. What you put at the end, it should be in text citation also. Trushali also did well in text, and that combination was found quite well in that. So whatever is cited is found inside the PPT also. And Upasana's was last one, that was also presented well. Okay, fine. So now in the morning slot, I think many of them are still facing problem about putting timestamp. So let me share this screen. and see what mistake they are making in timestamp. So you can see here that earlier everybody timestamp, last time you might have seen the videos. If you have not seen, then again check and see the description, so you come to know it is always the beginning point, the beginning from where that part begins, that is chapterization. This is called chapterization in video. Chapterization in book, page number is the beginning of the chapter. That is all chapters from where it begins, that is given that way. Only that time from where your turn begins or you start speaking, that time in the format of 00:00:00, hours, minutes, seconds. Even if your video is before hours, then 00. If it is 1, then 01. This format. So I thought this is very simple and there is no need to tell. આવી બાબતો પીજીના વિદ્યાર્થીને સમજાવીએ તો એ કેટલું ખરાબ લાગે. કોઈ આ વિડીયો લાઈવ જોતું હોય કે પછી જોવે તો એમ લાગે કે આવું બધું કંઈ પીજીના વિદ્યાર્થીને શીખવાડવું હોય. પણ આ બતાવવું પડે જો આવું લખ્યું એ લોકોએ. એટલે એટલું સાદું પણ કર્યું છે કે આ વખતે વિડીયોમાં મૂકેલું છે તો પણ આપણે જોઈને પણ કરી શકીએ. How we can do this, but still after the message you will see કે કેટલો સમય થઈ ગયો મેસેજ મોકલ્યો એને હજી એ કરેક્ટ નથી થયું. એકાદ કલાક થઈ ગઈ હશે લગભગ વોટ્સએપમાં મેસેજ મોકલ્યા એને. તો સ્ટીલ મેની પીપલ આ બીજા કરેક્શન્સ આવી ગયા છે, but that is still not done. So this also, now I hope you will not commit the same mistake and you will guide them also if they have not corrected here when you put this things there. Okay, so with this we end our session here, and tomorrow we will again have the session.